Welcome back to Social Sessions, everybody. This is our second time recording the little intro, but we're back still. We're back. I'm like, now I don't know what to say. Everything feels like I don't want to just repeat
Unauthentic.
exactly what I said. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, welcome back to Social Sessions. Happy Thursday to you listening to this. It's Terrah and I here to talk to you about social media and marketing, as we always do. This week, we are talking about kind of broadening your scope of work, adding new services, because I feel like that's just something every business goes through, even every freelancer goes through, because things change in your industry, in your market, and you need to adjust accordingly. Like if you start with one service, odds are you can't get by with just that one service forever. You're probably going to need to add something on, and you're going to recognize the needs of your clients, which is going to make it a little bit easier. So we're going to walk you through all of that, kind of how we've done it over the last year. This is very much an on-trend topic for us because we've been adding new services over the last year, and this is like a conversation that we have been consistently having within the agency for the last year. So that's kind of why we wanted to talk about it. But before that, I wanted to remind you guys that we are on YouTube. I have said this a million times, but I am a podcast watcher. I have them on the TV most of the time. So if that is like you can watch us. You can see our faces. Maybe you listen to this podcast and you have no idea what we look like. Now you know. I mean, you could also follow us on Instagram if you really wanted to see what we look like, because we're there. Obviously.
We are there.
But if you wanted to see Terrah and I have this conversation, maybe that's more fulfilling to you. You can watch it on YouTube.
I think it is more fulfilling.
I agree. I like it. I feel like I like that you can see expressions and whatever.
It makes a difference, huh? Expressions, yeah, for sure.
It just makes it more fun. It also like makes me feel like I'm friends with everybody that I watch online. Okay, so for the tip of the week this week, I thought this was fitting because this feels pretty on par with an episode we did recently, which was about how to increase sales increase your sales just like through social media. And I've just been making a lot of content about this recently, so this feels aligned. So one of the things that we had said prior, like in that episode, was that you should be able to answer your audience's questions before they even start to ask them. Like they shouldn't have to ask you questions. They should be able to find all of the answers that they need either in your content or online. And so I found an article that was saying 8 questions that your website visitors need answered within the first 10 seconds of viewing your website. So I would say, I don't know if these all apply, but I would say these apply to social media as well. But like I said, this is just something that I think is going to help you increase sales is if you answer all of these questions, right? Yeah. So number 1 was, what are you selling? Obviously, that sounds really obvious, but there has been so many like companies that I will see online that I'm like, I'm not quite sure what this is. Like, I really don't know what you're selling. And I think that's actually an issue recently. I saw TikTok about this the other day, and this girl was like, branding has become like so minimal. And she like, I don't remember what she used as an example, but it'll just have like one word, right? The branding will be really minimal, and then the name of the product or the name of the brand will be like one word. And then the description will be like, helping to empower women. And you're like, okay, so but like how? Yeah, like what exactly is? And I feel like the same energy kind of goes towards websites sometimes and social media. Like people are so focused on the aesthetics that they're not
lose
conveying
sight of the message.
Yeah, like what even they are.
So true.
So again, sounds obvious, but you would be surprised. There's like an insane amount of businesses that are not clear about that. So what you're selling, why your audience should care, which is very much the pain points that I feel like we continue to tell you about. Like, know your audience's pain points and address them, because that really is going to convey to them why they should care about your product. What's the cost? That's something that like Terrah and I have had this conversation a lot, because I think within products, it's pretty clear. It's like cut and dry. You just like put the price of the product. Services, people for whatever reason do not want to put the price. They want you to call or book a discovery call or like inquire for the price. And I just like don't think, I think it's a waste of everybody's time to do that. Now you don't need, I understand sometimes with services you don't want to put like a blanket
A
price
flat
because
price,
things,
yeah.
right, because
Can it
things
be
can change.
adjusted?
Mm-hmm. Like even with us, like someone can add on a certain service, or maybe they like whatever, they need things that other people might not need. That's going to adjust their price. The same thing with like a surgery or like anything cosmetic. Like there's reasons, but I think you can put a base price to be like our starting point is
Starting
X
point, or
amount.
like a, what do you call it? Just like an in between. It's going to fall between
Like a range.
A range. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
A range. Yeah, that's always a good option too.
I just think it needs to be on there because it's such a big factor in if someone's going to purchase from you or book from you, that they should be able to determine that right off the bat. Number 4, what differentiates your brand from others? This feels very much like your why, and it kind of feels like it's tied into why these people should care about your product. But I mean, it's a good point. And sometimes the thing is, sometimes the way that this is conveyed isn't necessarily just in words, right? You can convey some of this stuff. Like this one specifically, what differentiate your product? It could be that yours is like, it is more aesthetic looking. Like maybe there's even
That's
down to like,
yeah, that's a very big.
this is like a random example, but like thinking about deodorant, like Axe is not an aesthetic brand, really. Like it's not something that you would want. Let's say you have limited cabinet space. It's not something that you would want like on your counter. Native deodorant is very clean, very like you might want to have it on your counter. So it could be as simple as that. Like if I go to Native's website and I see that, that could be what differentiates it. It doesn't necessarily mean like written out, here's what makes us different. Like it could be through photos.
Yeah. I actually said this to Anthony last night. This is a sidebar, but I was like, who wants to make a printer that's aesthetically pleasing? Why are they so ugly? Like, I had to put a printer in this office, and I'm like, it's so ugly. Just put it under the
That's why people have them
bed.
hidden. People have like cabinets for their printers.
Yeah, because they're so ugly.
Yeah, it could be even down to like, I feel like our place, I use them as an example all the time, but they did a really, really good job at becoming like an aesthetic kitchenware brand, right? Like they even released I think it's an air fryer. And I think that was one of they have like other talking points and other key points as to why you should buy this product. But that's like one of their big ones is that it's on your counter. It should look nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing that should be answered is can they navigate your site with ease? This is really similar again to what Terrah and I were talking about a few weeks ago, where like you do need to make the process as easy as possible or you're going to lose people. Who else is using it? This is a great place this is why people will have like featured in Forbes or featured in blah, 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 because it kind of tells you who is using it. Because let's say it's a product and they say we're featuring women's health, right? Mm-hmm. You kind of, there's an association there with like the type of person that's going to read women's health. So you have that association of the type of person that reads that magazine is also the type of person that's going to use this product, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's not so cut and dry that all of these should just be answered in your copy. There's definitely ways to do this in a way that like makes sense for your website. Next one is can I trust you? That's very much, I think, the reviews. That's very much like testimonials, things like that. Last one is how can I contact you? This one's insane because there's so many people that don't have this on their website, but like whether that be a phone number and an email in the footer or that is like a contact page, those are probably the two places that I think are most looked. Like if someone's looking how to contact you, that's what they're going to look for. I always go straight to the footer to see if I can find an email, or I go to the contact page. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, all of these things are things that should be answered and pretty similar to your socials. Like a lot of these can carry over. Like the cost can be carried over, why someone should care, what you're selling, what differentiates you, who's using it. All of that stuff can also be used in your content and in your highlighted content, which we've talked about too, like pin posts and highlights and things like that.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a mini website. So just trying to carry everything over.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, because it's still, the idea is, we talk about this all the time too, but the idea is it's kind of a first impression, right? They should be able, assuming they find you on social media, they should be able to have some questions answered, and then they'll get like a more in-depth look when they go to the website.
Yeah.
So that was kind of your tip of the week. I just saw this article and I thought it was very aligned, and it works nicely with what we have been talking about. So now, moving on to adding new services, why you should do it, how you can do it, how you can determine what new services you're going to offer, all of that. So first, I want to talk about maybe why you should even include new services. So talking specifically about digital marketing, like it moves quickly. If you think about it, social media was not even a marketing tactic 20 years ago, right? Like it's still a very new platform. And to see how much that has changed in the last, even 4 years, like TikTok has changed the game so much. Like Instagram didn't even have video however many years ago. Influencer marketing is still very new. Like so much has changed and is now like required, I would say. These are all marketing tactics that I think are pretty much a requirement for most businesses. So to see how that landscape has changed so much should be proof enough that things are going to continue to change, which probably means the services that you have in place right now, they might work now, but you need to be thinking ahead and thinking about what you can add that's going to elevate the services. That doesn't necessarily, I'm not talking about scrapping what you have. I'm talking about building on top of that.
Yeah.
So like for us, we were noticing, I'm like, let's just be transparent. We were noticing we would have a little bit of fall off with clients, and we were thinking like, we're not really involved in any other aspect of
their business,
their marketing. Right. And this is usually, especially if we're talking about like current climate, during a recession, it honestly does make sense that a business would scrap social media
first
as one of the first things, right? Because it's
not
an
smart
expense
move.
that
I
maybe
don't agree with it. I will say that. I think it's the dumbest thing you can do. But from their perspective, I think it's the smartest.
It does make sense from like a business sense of like if that, because maybe it's like a slower burn, right? We've talked about maybe the ROI doesn't come immediately. So if they're not seeing that return immediately, it's easier for them to make that
decision,
cut, right? For something that is giving them a quicker return.
Yeah.
So that was just something that we were noticing is like, how can we kind of get invested more? And then also like thinking, pulling back the camera a little bit, thinking about things that work really well with socials. So obviously we handle a lot of organic socials, but then we were thinking about, okay, what can kind of elevate, what can play with organic socials to help our clients? Because a lot of clients want conversions. They want sales. They want leads. That's really the main thing for a lot of them, not all of them, but for a lot of them. And we were like, what can kind of help with that? We were like, oh, email marketing. We know that email marketing can help with that. Or like other clients would be like, oh, we're not getting as many views as we want. And so that kind of opened up the door to paid ads or influencer marketing, which is something that we've done, but we've kind of readjusted our structure within our business, which is another thing that I do kind of want to get into. That it used to just be something that we would kind of like do for clients sometimes, but now it's like, okay, this is a service that we offer that does play really well with
what you're doing,
social media marketing. So that's kind of how we started the conversation of like wanting to add more services. Terrah, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think it was, Anthony, I had heard this, I always.
Also for context, Anthony is Terrah's husband.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, Anthony. So he had said, he would say stuff all the time, like you need to be more sticky, which I understood. And stickiness, like you don't have enough stickiness. Like if you're in their business in multiple places, they may pull from one place, but you still have them in another, because their chances of them cutting everything at one time is a lot more rare than it would be for them just to cut social and be like, sorry, we're not going to do that now.
Right.
So I knew it, I heard about it, like maybe I should have been a little bit more forward in it, but it's just something that has naturally evolved into, we had to do it. And we didn't really know how that would look. Like, I think sometimes we limit ourselves to like what we're doing. Like we don't have the capacity to add services. But again, it's really helped us create more of a sticky relationship with the clients that we do have and the ones that are with us now. It's almost like we packaged, which maybe you go into this a little bit later, but making a package that includes 2 services. That way they can pull back from one, but maybe they have to keep the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying is that, like, I think when we think of adding services, sometimes people will think like, oh, I have to learn an entire new skill set and blah, 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 which actually leads me into the next point, which is determining what services you should add. But a lot of times it's things that you already know that maybe the skill set overlaps with the service that you already have. So for example, like influencer marketing is a great example of this because we already are pretty well versed in the influencer world due to being on social media all the time and like having some experience with it, where there is a pretty big overlap between organic social marketing and influencer marketing. So it would make sense for us. It's not a huge leap for us to go from this to that. But I think a lot of times people think when they need to add another service, it feels like a big leap. I'm not telling you to go from social media marketing
to web design,
like Super Bowl commercials. Yeah, like I'm not talking, you don't need to make like a giant leap. It's not like I'm telling you to go from one medium to another. I'm saying what kind of within your industry can you learn, or do you feel like you have some of the skills to do?
You know what, too? I think
that isn't a big
it's
leap.
even as simple as like just making that thing that you're already doing a service. I think, like you said, social media is so new, and the success that we've had has included a lot of these like little things, influencer marketing and those types of things that we've seen with our clients, but we didn't look at them as services until we actually had to be like, wait, like that takes time. And you know what I mean? Like, and so sometimes we do things and don't consider them a service or charge for them. But if it's taking time out of your team or away from your team, then it's considered a service and it should be charged for, right?
And I also think like this is kind of where we were talking about the changing of packages too, where like Terrah said, influencer marketing was just like something we did. Content days was just kind of something we did. And then we realized like that is taking a lot of our time, and it's maybe not something that we should just throw into our basic package and something that we should charge extra for, and turning that into a service. So, I mean, I like that you brought that up because it might not be something entirely new. It might be something that you're doing, but realizing that like how much time you're spending on it versus how much you're getting paid is not working out.
It's not working out. Yeah, exactly.
And then as far as like bringing on a new service, if you're still like, I don't really know what that could look like, look at the clients that you already have. What are some, like you are already having marketing conversations with your clients, right? So you kind of already know what's falling flat for them. Maybe they want to like reach a new demographic, but don't really know how, or maybe their conversions aren't where you want them to be or where they want them to be, and they're not like seeing success in what they're doing right now. What do you know as a marketing expert, as a digital marketing expert? What do you know could help them, right? So for example, if they want a new demographic, maybe that's a new platform that you didn't offer, right? Maybe that's like, maybe they should be on Pinterest because they're trying to reach a different market, or they should be on YouTube. Or like I said, maybe for us, it was email marketing. We knew that could help with their conversions. But having those conversations and seeing what it is your clients need, what is kind of falling short for them, is going to be helpful for you to determine what you can do to help them.
Yeah, where there's like gaps. Because sometimes, and you are supposed to be the marketing expert at this point. I think that we get a lot of the marketing pushed on us, and so we should be able to identify, well, that's actually something you're missing, and we can provide you with that service for this cost.
Yeah. So like I said, like I'm going to use email marketing a lot as an example here because that's something that we recently launched. But it was very much like, okay, we know that these clients want conversion. We know that there's a higher conversion rate with email. We also know that that's within our wheelhouse, right? We already do some copy with like our blog posts and our emails and things like that, which I'll kind of get into that as well. But in the graphic design of an email marketing and things like that. Like it's kind of within our wheelhouse. The subject line kind of aligns with the hook for a video, things like that. Like it does
plays off each
align.
other.
It's not right. It's not like crazy for us to go from socials to email marketing. So once we determined that, then it was like investing in the skill set is the next thing that you need to do. And I think, yes, you can take a course. Yes, you can invest money. And I think that's great. But it doesn't always have to be money either. I think for us, it was more so like there's definitely free podcasts, free classes. But like for us, it was investing a lot of time. Like I know Megan did a lot of demos with different email marketing type of companies, like a Flowdesk, a Klaviyo, a thing like that, to see what's going to work best for our clients. So investing could also just be investing time. It doesn't have to be investing money, although I'm not against that. There's, like I said, definitely a bunch of courses that you can learn from. And if this is maybe a huge launch that you don't know enough about, then I would totally suggest investing in a course, investing in a class, things like that. But a lot of times it's just like investing the time to learn
the thing. Yeah.
So that's kind of what we did. I will say too, one way to kind of like invest in terms of time and like actually learning the skill set is to, if you can, implement it for your own company. This is something that we do a lot. Like we've been doing email marketing probably for the last like year and a half before we actually did it as a service.
That's true.
And so because it feels, to me at least, it feels a little bit more like ethical to put our company at risk before a paying client, to make sure we know because also like at risk, that's a dramatic, way to look at it. But like, we're not really paying to do this. It's something we can test out versus if someone started paying us to do it and we couldn't deliver results because we didn't know what we were doing, then I feel a little bit bad where we don't really have much to lose to try a new service on ourselves. So I would totally recommend that if possible to try and do it with your own company, with your own audience, and see, like, get the hang of it and really feel like you understand the skill set, understand
we've done that with
the service that you're going to provide.
Really. Like when we, influencer marketing is something that we're trying to dip into, and that's going to be a lot of practice, but we're going to use some of the things we already have to do so. Or what did you do? Oh, the ads, right? Like we test a lot with ads.
I use our account a lot to test ads. Like I said, the email marketing, even down to like, we've talked about like influencer management. It's not a service that we offer right now, but it's something that I do feel like we have a lot of experience in. And like, or we've talked about like kind of podcasting tours, podcasting PR type of situations. And I tested out with us first, right? That's how I've gotten every guest on this episode, is because I've really learned how to write a good pitch and get people on. And same with like, we've been on a few podcast episodes, right? Same thing. I've learned how to write a pitch to be like, we should come on your show, or Terrah should come on your show, or whatever, things like that. So if there is a time when maybe we do want to make that a service, I think that plays into influencer management. I think that plays into, if we want to go kind of a podcasting route, it's something that we've tested first.
Yeah.
So just investing in the skill set, I think, is important, and really like getting good at it. Next, we've got actually integrating the service. That's obviously going to be your next step. Now, I think what's really important is sometimes we can be like, we're going to do this new service. We have this new skill set. Let's offer it immediately. But I think it's really important that you put a structure in place for how you're going to do that, right? Because you have it for your other services. For example, like for us with social media marketing, we have a structure of like, okay, we have the discovery call, they pick their package. We have the call where we have these questionnaires that we send out. We know how long the onboarding is going to take. We already know the services or the softwares that we're going to use, everything like that. So we have that nailed down. But if we just decided today that we wanted to offer email marketing and then announced it to everybody that we're offering email marketing and didn't have a software in place, didn't have like questionnaires in place, we didn't know what we needed from the clients, it would be a shit show. So it's important to like have that structure of how you're going to operate this service
before you announce
before you actually launch it. Yeah. So like I said, it's the little things of like, what software do you need? How much are you going to charge for it? Do you need any new equipment? And then it's also building out, the onboarding. Like maybe you have onboarding for us. Like I just said, we have onboarding questionnaires. Are we going to send out that exact same questionnaire, or do we need different questions answered? Do we need, like for email marketing, again, using that example, we needed to know, do you already have an email list in place? Get that to us. That's not something we need with social media management. So things like that, like what do you need? Is the contract going to look the same? Or do you need to alter your contract a little bit? What do you need from the client before you actually start? And then what is the timeline? So again, using these two examples, with social media marketing, I feel like the timeline is a little bit longer. The onboarding is a little bit longer because we need a lot more from the client before we can get started. We need like any professional photography. We need you to answer all of these questions. We need your logins. We need
your logos, your brand,
your branding. We need, all of that kind of stuff. Where like with email marketing, we need like your email list and your branding. Really, we don't need a ton more. Obviously, there's like the questionnaires and the goals and things like that, but there's less like deliverables that we need from a client to get started. So the onboarding is going to be a little bit shorter. So just determining all of that before you actually launch it, I think is really important, obviously, and it's just going to make everything a little bit more smooth sailing. And lastly is actually launching the service. So this is where everybody likes to jump to, right? Is like the marketing of how you're going to launch a new service. I like this kind of slow rollout, maybe introduce the service to your audience without saying that you're offering it, like just warming them up to it. So for us, it was like before we launched email marketing, it was like I throw in a few posts here and there about the benefits of email marketing. I believe we did a podcast about it, things like that, just to like put it on their radar, essentially. So same with influencer marketing. Like if that's what you wanted to start doing, maybe it's like talking about it on stories here and there, or it's like making a post about it or a TikTok about it, just not in a salesy way, but in a way of like, this is a beneficial service. Like we've seen a lot of companies grow from this, things like that. Just getting them thinking about it. And then slowly start to roll out hints, slowly start to roll things out. Like top of the funnel type of content. Again, could be like the viral type of content, things like that. And then you actually roll it out, right? Then you're like, we have a new service. And I think a great way to roll out a new service too is to either bundle it with a current service that you have for like a quote unquote lower rate, because that's enticing, or like an early bird type of situation. You see people do this all the time. You see a lot of like, services or
get this pricing,
even like festival. Yeah. If you order this, or if you make a purchase in the next like 5 days, then you'll get this discounted rate. And after the 5 days, it goes up to full price, things like that. So offering some kind of incentive to purchase quickly, I think, is one of the better ways to launch a new service. This is kind of
actually how we did it, really. Like you're just mapping out what we did.
Yeah, this is almost exactly what we did with email marketing. It doesn't always have to be big either. I also think don't forget about the clients that you do have when you roll out a new service. So we rolled out this service and then we followed up with like all of our clients and we were like, hey, this is something we offer now. We'd love to like bundle it with the package that you already have for this discounted rate. And then also explaining to them, this is why we think it would be so good for you. This is why we think it would be a beneficial package for you. Obviously, don't roll it, like don't try and push it on every client, especially if it doesn't fit. But if you think it's a good fit, it's worth bringing up to a client and just saying, hey, we offer this, and I know this is one of your goals. Like maybe conversion is one of your goals, and email marketing has a really high conversion rate. Is that something you would be interested in? So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of roll out, like, explain to you guys how we roll out a new service, why maybe you should start thinking about offering a new service, and also hoping that this makes it a little bit less daunting, because the idea of rolling out a new service does feel like overwhelming because it maybe takes more time or is outside of your comfort zone. But when you really break it down, it doesn't have to be so overwhelming.
Yeah, it doesn't. I think it is something though that like I have so many, like when you compare yourself to other agencies or whatever, and you see like all the services they're offering, you're like, well, we could do that. Well, we could do that. Well, we could do that. I think there is something to be said about like just going at your pace and not being overwhelmed by what you could do. You know, I feel like for me, sometimes I'm like, I want to continue to add services, but I don't want to do them sloppy either. So I do think you have to do them in good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I could get
I know what you mean. Because then it's honestly, this is something that has come up in my personal life a lot. And I've been talking about this like on my personal podcast a lot, of just like, it's the same idea of you can't do everything well. So if we tried to launch like 5 services right now, they would all kind of be at like a 30% capacity. Like we wouldn't do any of them really well. We would just be doing all of them.
I mean, you could testify that I have said, oh, maybe we should do web design. Like maybe we should do that. And you're like, but who does it? Well, I do it.
I'm like, we can't do that right now. I'm like, also, I don't know how to do that.
But like, I don't have time. There's no way I could design a website on top of what we're doing now. So I do think just because you can do it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it either, right? But I do think...
I think it's maybe rolling out like one at a time, getting good at that. That's why I also like really stress the structure of it, because that is going to help a lot with like getting good at it and getting like in a routine of it. And then once you feel confident in the services that you have going and the new service that you launched, then you can, you know, reassess and be like, okay, what else can we do? Do we have the time for this? Do we have the clientele for this? Things like that. But I think it is important to just find like one thing at a time.
I think it's good.
So that's this week's episode, you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will say, like, if you follow us, I would love if you followed us on Instagram at Social Sessions Podcast, I believe is the Instagram, because I have been asking a lot more questions. I want more feedback from you guys. I think I asked about this on a recent podcast, but like, I want to know if you guys prefer longer episodes or shorter episodes. Do you like when they're more to the point or conversational? I've been putting a lot of polls and like question boxes on our Instagram recently just to kind of see, I want to gauge what you guys want. Like, who do you want to hear from? What kind of guests do you want on the podcast? Do you want more like internal stuff from us? Because there was a moment in time where we were recording some meetings and using those as podcast episodes. Maybe those are the ones that you guys like, because it's kind of learning like from quote unquote experience versus us just talking to you. So if you follow us over there, I would love to hear your input on what you guys want to hear from the show. And until next time, we'll talk next week.